Hi, guys. How's everyone?
Hey. There we are. Great.
I thought this would be great until I realized the sun is setting, but I figure it'll be gone in a few minutes. So
Dramatic. You're very dramatic right there.
we'll give it a go.
Are you on 5G? Are you connected to your 5G?
I am. Why? Am I cutting out?
Nope, just making sure. There was a little hint of it, and when it starts going bad on you, good Lord, it goes bad. But if you're on 5G, it's always been good.
Yeah, that's true. Let me now that you mention that, let me let me confirm which. Yep, I'm on our 5G. Yeah, we should be good. And nothing else is streaming, so we should be great. Good evening, Andrew.
What's up, Andrew? Lisa, would still love to get, if you check your email, would love to get a quick response on that email that I sent you and Mark. You're on mute, but would love to.
I just sent it.
Oh,
Thank you.
hand over some controls.
I have house guests that I haven't had for over a year. We haven't seen them since February of 2020.
Oh, that's nice.
And it was just something that happened because they got tickets to the baseball game tomorrow.
Dodgers. Nice.
Oh, listen.
Team.
Hey, Andrew. Hi, Chris.
Hello, both of you.
So we have 10 people, right? That is the timer. It will look something like this as it counts down. And when it gets to 10 seconds, it'll turn to orange. When it gets to 0, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to mute you. Unmute yourselves to start talking, but I will mute you. It's just to be fair to everyone. We have a lot of people here. So with that, Randall, yes, we can start going live and all of that. Find this again. And when Belinda gets here, we'll let her in. Mark, you're on that.
I am.
All right, everyone. Thank you, Mark. Welcome to night 3 of the candidate forum for the Studio City Neighborhood Council elections. We are here today with 10 of the homeowners that are vying for your vote, stakeholders. We have Lily Barsha, we have Randall Freed, we have Chris Groton, we have Jeff Hartwick, we have Belinda Jenks, we have Walt Mashinsky, I think I got that right, Jeff Roy, Andrew Silver, Matt Thompson, and Peggy Velasco. As the last couple of nights you might have heard, I'm just going to run down so you guys know as well out there in the audience how we'll be doing this. First off, I do need to tell you that 2 candidates have dropped out of the running but will still appear on the ballot. These people have reached out to the LA clerk as well as the election committee. They are Taylor Orgy and Mona Tashrudian. And again, they'll be on the ballot when you see them, but they will not be running. They've dropped out for whatever reason. Due to the pandemic and for the safety of our community, we're holding this forum differently than others, thus via Zoom. The election committee has done their best at being fair to every candidate taking part, as well as to the stakeholders who will be voting. Not all candidates up for election will be appearing in these 3 nights of forums. Some have declined, some have dropped out, some did not meet the deadlines every candidate were given, and more have not responded. So I would hope that everyone who's a stakeholder goes to visit the election website above my head. There you will be able to register to vote. Even if you're registered in national and state elections, you still need to register to vote by mail. Go to this website. You can also find every candidate, whether or not the candidate is part of these forums. They will be up on the election website. You can read their statements there and make your choices accordingly. To the left and to the right of me, the stakeholder sign up to vote by mail is May 4th. The ballots must be postmarked by May 11th, or they can be dropped at the ballot box located outside the Studio City Library on the sidewalk. Looks like it closes on May 11th at 8 p.m. Again, nothing's in person. Please go by mail or drop them in the box. Tells you that already. Questions have come from the community, and since many were similar, they have been combined for clarity's sake. Not all questions will be asked, and they will be asked in no particular order. All candidates are aware that while we will be asking specific questions, there is a neighborhood council code of conduct they must sign when becoming a board member, that they keep an open mind about all issues, brought before the board for a vote. To be fair, during this pandemically altered election, all candidates who elected to be involved in this video forum have been given the questions 24 hours in advance. We encourage every candidate from the last 2 nights and tonight to engage more with the community via social media. For example, a candidate may be willing to hold their own town hall on Nextdoor or through their own Zoom chat. So I encourage stakeholders to reach out to every candidate to further the conversation. The format will be 1 minute for opening remarks, 1 minute, 15 seconds to answer the questions. And because we did it Tuesday and Wednesday, so the candidates can give their email or their social media, whatever, we're adding in 15 seconds onto the end of the closing. So 1 minute, 15 seconds for them closing. There's a timer each candidate and stakeholder can see. They will be muted when time is up. Once again, candidates, I'm just going to remind you to unmute yourself. I apologize ahead of time if I have to mute you, but here we go.
Michael,
Yes, Lisa.
Belinda has been called to some emergency work thing, and she will call in if she can before 9 o'clock, hopefully to participate.
Sounds good. The order remains the same. I'll keep that in the back pocket there. Now everybody knows that Belinda may be calling in. Life happens. So with that, the first person will be Jeff Roy. Jeff, will give you your opening whenever you're ready.
Hi, Studio City. My name's Jeff Roy. My goals as a council member are simple: to listen to and act on behalf of all Studio City stakeholders. I'm relatively new to the area. My partner and I moved here from Hollywood right before the onset of the pandemic, and let me tell you, we were so fortunate to have done so. We have fabulous neighbors and have really come to depend on the businesses within walking distance of our home. Studio City is a vibrant, diverse, and inclusive place, and I really believe in the potential that we have as a community and neighborhood council to respond to everyday issues that we face in these challenging times and to facilitate meaningful, equitable, socially responsible change on behalf of everybody. And this is why I've joined the Slate Studio City for All to find out more about how we can achieve our goals, our shared goals. I'd like to invite you to visit the website, studiocityforall.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Next person up will be Andrew Silver. Andrew?
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Andrew Silver. I've lived in the Valley for over 30 years, and I've been a homeowner resident of Studio City for 11 years. After I retired, I decided to get more involved in the community and specifically homelessness issues. One of my first stops was the Studio City Neighborhood Council, where our Councilman Paul Krikorian was speaking on homelessness one night. I joined the Homelessness Committee and set out to bring resources to our community. I'm currently board president of No Home Alliance and co-chair of the Spot 2 Steering Committee. These are volunteer positions, and I get no remuneration of any kind from this work. I want to be a board member of the Studio City Neighborhood Council to raise the voice of our community on key issues to our local representatives with the goal of bringing additional resources and real solutions to the issues our stakeholders are concerned about. You can learn more at studiocityforall.com.
Thank you, Andrew. And I'm just going to let every candidate know that I will mute you up until the moment that you should be talking, just in case, because I know outside my window is loud as well, and I don't want to interrupt anyone. So with that, Matt, you're up.
Hello, this is Matt Thompson. I've been a resident homeowner of Studio City since 2013, so about 7 years, and came here for the schools. Carpenter is an amazing place. Both my daughters attend Carpenter Elementary. But there's been a lot of problems lately. There's more crime, there's more garbage, there's more airport noise, and there's a homeless problem. And we need to address that. And I think we can address that by connecting more with the police, notifying the respective groups about the garbage, that's the Department of Transportation, mobilizing our residents to go after the airport noise coming from Burbank Airport, and being more proactive with the homeless problem. There's a lot of garbage that needs to be cleaned up, and we can also work together by organizing cleanups and organizing education. I honestly think the council does not do enough to promote itself. I didn't know this existed till very recently, so we need to do more to promote our message.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. All right, we are going to Peggy Velasco. Peggy. Peggy, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Peggy Velasco. I have lived in Studio City for 7 years. I am a wife of an Air Force veteran, a community college professor. I teach child development. I'm not a lawyer nor a politician. I am just your next door neighbor who's running for the homeowner seat council because I want to be your voice to advocate for families and safety. My platform will focus on collaborating with our local government, other neighborhood councils, and community businesses on issues we are facing. I really look forward to seeing you, my neighbors, enjoying our diverse small business and meeting neighbors as we walk with our families and pets. I ask for your vote to voice our needs as we deserve a safe community. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. I see two Peggy's on the screen up there. That's interesting. You see that too? Lily Barsha, you're up next.
Hello, my name is Lily Barsha. I've been fortunate to call Studio City my home forever. I'm a pre-native. That means my mother and father and grandparents are from Los Angeles. I have stories of Studio City. My grandmother told you used to be able to swim in the LA River and fish there too. My father's generation talks about the citrus trees that filled the valley when he was growing up. And I would like to speak for the trees, many of whom I've known since I was 13. They provide shade and privacy, a lot more than some neighbors. And I'd like to speak for them. They are what's disappearing.
Thank you, Lily. We'll move on to Randall Freed. Randall.
Hi, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Lisa Sarkin and the rest of the ad hoc election committee. And thank you to all my fellow candidates. It's been very exciting to see that our efforts to reach out to the community has resonated. My name is Randy Freed. I'm the current president of the Studio City Neighborhood Council and running for re-election. And I hope that I will earn your vote. The last year, a pandemic has brought all new world of masks and challenges that we never expected. Yet, while I've been president, our neighborhood council, a group of us came and answered the call of the mayor, pass out masks to help first responders, donating food, getting community members to help other community members, donating food to NoHo Interfaith Food Pantry. There's more to do for sure. And I hope that with your vote, we will keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Randall. Moving on to Chris Grattan. Chris.
Hi, everyone. My name's Chris Grattan. Thanks, Mike. My name's Chris Grattan, and I'm running for a seat, obviously, on the Studio City Neighborhood Council. I've lived in Studio City and surrounding areas of the Valley for about 20 years now, 12 of them directly in Studio City. I received a degree in political science with an emphasis on public policy from UC Santa Barbara. I won't tell you the year. It was last century, though. My work experience has been in merchandise and financial planning and analysis for a number of large publicly traded and privately held retail businesses. Most relevant are my years as a leader of regional or country businesses within a national or international company. My job was essentially to convince headquarters of what we needed regionally by store or by group of stores. So instead of continuing to leverage my experience to help a company make more money, I want to use my experience to convince City Hall to help my community more than they've done in the past. Thanks for attending and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much, Chris. Moving on to Jeff Hartwick. Jeff.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Hartwick. I'm a native Californian. Lived in the Valley for about 14 years, 4 here in Studio City. I'm a military veteran. I was a U.S. Navy officer. I served on an aircraft carrier overseas for 3 years. Now I'm a businessman and a lawyer. My kids have gone to local schools, Colfax, Walter Reed, Milliken, and I've been a longtime volunteer in youth sports like AYSO and baseball at Beeman Park. I'm ready to help tackle some of the problems affecting our community, like the spreading homeless encampments, rising crime, and also street maintenance issues that are of local concern. I have the leadership, management, and legal skills to help deal with these urgent issues. And I will listen to you. I'll be your advocate for positive reform and change. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And we are moving on to Walt Mashinsky. Walt.
Hi. First of all, thanks for having this forum. Certainly interesting to hear all of the other candidates' backgrounds. My name is Walt Mashinsky, and for about the last 20 years, I've been a development executive, showrunner, and content creator in pretty much all phases of non-scripted television. So that's game show, docu-series, talk shows, and stunt game show series. So obviously I'm a very serious person who must be taken incredibly seriously as a result of my vast experience on dating shows. Prior to that, I'm originally from Ohio. I grew up there, went to Ohio State University where I got my degree in political science, and then moved out to California to pursue fame and fortune in Hollywood. I originally lived in West Hollywood, and after that, about 10 years ago, moved to Studio City. I think my job as a showrunner is always to build on the best qualities of everybody on my team while knowing that they each bring something individual to it. I hope to bring that same level of experience and commitment to the Studio City Neighborhood Council.
Thank you, Walt. All right, that concludes the open for everyone. What we will do is move on to the first person for the first question. Little handy dandy bag. And this will be Andrew Silver. You are the first person up to answer this next question. And your question will be, wait, let me change the timer here. Sure I'm doing this correctly. Sorry, folks. All right, your question will be, since the Studio City Neighborhood Council represents stakeholders who live, work, own real property, or is a community interest stakeholder within the boundaries of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, are you open to listening to other stakeholders' ideas? And how do you handle differing opinions when it comes to being a board member? So what would you say is your most important leadership mantra, which will help you collaborate with other board members, especially those who don't share the same opinion as yourself?
Thank you, Michael. So yes, of course, I'm open to listen to different opinions. After volunteering at No Home Alliance, I was asked to join the board, and less than a year later, I was elected as board president, in part because I make sure that my fellow board members are heard. I was also recently elected by SPA 2 leaders to be the co-chair of the steering committee. So people that I work with have recognized that I listen to them and can come to consensus. I've had meetings with Campbell Hall, Oakwood School. I attended the vigil for the man that was stabbed at Whitson and Valley Heart. I spoke one-on-one with most of the 25 people that were there about their concerns. I've attended several coffee with a cop sessions, including one at the Coffee Bean on Whitson and talked to people about their concerns. And so it's great to listen, but I want to do more as a board member. I want to translate what I hear from the community into action. That is why I've written community impact statements and motions, presented them to committee and full board, and gotten approval of the board representing the diverse interests of the community. I have personally presented some of these to the council staff to make sure our community is heard. If we take time to really listen and focus on solutions, we can find common ground.
Thank you, Andrew. Next up will be Matt Thompson. Matt.
Yes, in terms of that, I'm very open to listening to all different points of view. I really thrive on that. It's crucial to have an opinion, but also listen for diverse points of view. And I'm going to bring some of the Asian American perspective from my perspective, which I don't think is currently on the council. In terms of my background, I'm on the alumni board of Stanford Business School, alumni board of Pomona College, and I was a longtime volunteer at Carpenter Community School. I've got an MBA from Stanford, and I went to undergrad at Pomona College. And through these, I've developed these business skills. And my day job is working on cross-border mergers and acquisitions and doing venture capital. So I have to deal with complex situations and with a variety of people from a variety of circumstances. And I'm able to bring the group together, discuss the options, but then also move forward. A lot of people get stuck, but I'm very action oriented, and I'm able to bring these diverse views together, hear them, and then take it forward, but actually make significant progress, because we have some major issues we need to address. We can't keep on doing the status quo.
Thank you, Matt. Moving on to Peggy Velasco. Peggy?
I am open to listening to other stakeholders' ideas, and I'm an educator. And as educators, we say for young children, every child is unique. Well, I also believe that for adults, every person is unique and we all have different ideas and perspectives. However, the beauty of being unique is that we can exchange all of our different ideas and collaborate and engage everyone's ideas into different projects. When we have different ideas, there is no reason to be upset. It is all about collaborating because we are here for the same cause to make a positive difference in our neighborhood. And my mantra is the more perspectives, the more solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you. Moving to Lily Barsha. Lily.
I keep waiting for the person who's brave enough to say, no, I don't agree with anybody. I believe a mind is like an umbrella. It only works when it's open. My whole family is nothing but a collection of diverse opinions. I have roots stretching back to Africa, to Asia, to Central and Eastern Europe, and the taproot here in the United States as an American of African, Asian, European, and indigenous descent. Yeah, that is my mantra. A mind only works when it's open.
Thank you, Lily. Moving on to Randall Freed. Randall. You are muted.
Try that again. Thanks, Michael. I think the reality is, if you want someone to hear your point of view, you have to hold space for their point of view. And I agree with Lily that it's easy to say, right? And we're waiting. I've never heard anyone say, no, I don't want to hear anyone's opinion. But the proof's in the pudding. We can look at members of the past of a slate that exists in this campaign, and they said they would listen, but when other people were mid-sentence giving their points of view, their heads were shaking no. That's not an open mind, in my opinion. If you want to look at my past experience and videos on YouTube, I listen to every opinion. Even the biggest critics of positions I've taken, I think, will confess that I've engaged with all of them. I have sat and I have listened. I may not agree, but I've taken the time to listen, because we have to hold space for someone else's point of view, or there's no reason they'll hold ours. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Randy. And we are going to move to Chris. Let me get set up with you. Chris Grattan.
Yep, ready to roll. Listen, I'm always open to listening to others' ideas. I've got a reputation in my career as a coalition builder, as a team builder, to get things done. And that is the most important thing that I've learned, is to listen. Letting go, it's been mentioned, letting go of our inclination to think that our way is the best way. It's hard to do, but it's really necessary in order to solve a problem. If everyone feels invested, like their ideas have been heard, the power of a team comes to life. As I mentioned, much of my career is centered around being the voice of a distant land to a giant corporate Death Star type organization. And I learned that not every store in this instance was an expert at communicating what they needed. They were experts at other things. But if I listened actively, I could usually figure it out and repackage what they were saying and get it done for them. And I feel if elected, that's what I'm going to do for Studio City with City Hall. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Chris. All right, we'll be moving on to Jeff. Go to it.
Yes, my leadership mantra would be to listen, following in everyone else's suggestions there. As a lawyer, I'm always hearing pros and cons of both sides. I'm able to argue both sides of the story, and it's important to hear all perspectives. I'm not an expert in many of these issues. That's why we have committees and stakeholders from business people, renters, homeowners, et cetera, to educate us on issues affecting the community. So I will do my best to keep an open mind and urge everyone else to speak their piece to me, and I will listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll be moving on to Walt Mashinsky. Walt.
I'm sorry, unfortunately, Lily, I'm not going to be the one who finally says that I don't want to listen to other people. So you'll have to wait for another candidate. There's an old joke in producing that says, how many producers does it take to change the light bulb? And the answer is, I don't know. What do you think? And I think that really speaks to the fact that television is a collaborative experience, and it's one that I'm very proud to be a part of. I'm in an unusual position in my day job in that I'm working with cameramen who are better with their cameras than I am, and sound engineers who are better at the sound engineering than I am. And I'm asked to bring them together. And the only way that I can do that is to listen to each of them, to hear what their concerns are, and to go to each of them with the solutions I can provide to them so that we together can succeed. I also have to unfortunately say I don't have a mantra because I think that I bring different tools in my toolbox, and the one that I pull out for a particular event or a particular moment or a particular crisis is going to be different each and every time, based on not my preconception or not the thing I bring into a problem, but what that problem demands of me in that moment. And I hope to kind of work with all of you that get elected on the council to make that happen.
Thank you, Walt. We'll be moving on to Jeff Roy. Jeff.
I've had the honor of working in various leadership positions as an educator, serving the needs of students, teachers, and other professionals in California's public university systems. And in my experience, serving the community means actively listening and giving voice to the diverse perspectives and experiences of everybody, with a focus on amplifying and uplifting those typically left out, or for some reason or another can't participate in such discourse, and doing so through the guiding principles of empathy, equity, social justice, and civic responsibility. Great ideas come when people with diverse experiences and perspectives can engage in civil discourse to achieve a shared goal. And the diversity of Studio City is well represented and well heard when everyone has a seat at the table and everyone's voice is being heard. Because the issues that we face affect everybody, and acting on behalf of everyone to do what is fair and what makes sense on behalf of the community is what participating on a council in the larger context of a democracy is all about. So I would say that one of my mantras is listen first, speak and act later. And thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, we've gone through that question. We will be moving on to the next. The person who's going to be answering the next question first, come on, will be Belinda Jenks. Right. Oh, she's not in here. Let me do that again. And that will be Chris Groton. Chris, you'll be the first one to answer this. And the question is, do you believe the neighborhood councils are political organizations? Is your candidacy supported, backed, affiliated, or funded in any way by any political party? And for clarity, this is not asking how you vote or how you are registered.
Thanks, Mike. I don't necessarily, I believe that everybody's decisions are colored by, their experiences, and part of that is their political leanings. However, in this job, like other jobs in the private sector, I don't feel like this is a political job necessarily. I am not supported by any organization, political organization or political party. I really feel like the purpose of this job is to communicate, whether you agree with it or not, communicate the message from your community to City Hall to get things done for your community. And that's basically the bottom line. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Moving on to Jeff Hartwick.
Well, I guess inherently the neighborhood councils are political. I mean, we are running for office. We could have campaigns, campaign flyers, et cetera, et cetera. So in that sense, it is political. But in terms of the local election itself, we really are nonpartisan. We should be open to all stakeholders' viewpoints. And as far as being backed by any political group or political party, no one's backing me in that sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Catch up here. Moving on to Walt Mashinsky. Walt.
I think that all of my political science professors back at Ohio State would be very disappointed if I didn't say that this is a political organization, because one of the very first things we learned was that politics is how things in a system move and who has power and how they use it on behalf of others. So yes, it's political. It isn't partisan, nor should it be, because I think that despite where we are on the political spectrum, we all have things that we can bring to the table. And I have not been approached by any political party to support my candidacy, nor am I being brought forward by any of them. So no to that part of the question.
Thank you, Walt. Moving on to Jeff Roy. Jeff.
So neighborhood councils are nonpartisan bodies that are designed to give stakeholders, all stakeholders, a voice in addressing needs and issues that face our communities in Studio City. Personal politics should not interfere with the activities of the neighborhood council or the interests of Studio City more generally. And Studio City for All Slate is not backed by a political party. We have been endorsed by LA Forward, and you can see the endorsements on the Studio City for All website. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Andrew Silver.
There we go. Hi. Neighborhood councils are nonpartisan bodies, and they're designed to give residents of every opinion a voice in addressing the local needs of our community. So personal politics shouldn't interfere with the interests of our overall community. There's been rumors out there that our slate has an affiliation with some political body, and I don't even know who it is. It's absolutely false. We have no support, no funding, no affiliation of any kind with any political body. I got together with these people because they're committed to work with our community, and they're younger than I am, which is exciting. They're engaged in the community. They support diversity in the community. And that's the only reason why we're working together, is to bring a new voice and an energized voice to Studio City. So no, this is a nonpartisan entity. We want to be inclusive for everybody and all voices, and share that information with the council.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. We are moving on to Matt Thompson. Matt.
As they say, all politics is local. So this is fundamentally a political organization, but I agree, this is nonpartisan. And I believe a lot of the issues we're dealing with are almost nonpartisan by nature. I'm not backed by any organization. I'm just here as an individual, as a father, as a parent, as a member of the community, to try to improve this small gem of a society we call Studio City. And I think we need to focus on these issues, and we need to use this power that has been granted by the city to help foster the interests of the citizens of Studio City, because there are a lot of these issues that I've mentioned before that need to get addressed. But I'm quite encouraged. Listening to these other candidates, I'm really impressed. This is so much better dialogue and discourse than you see on a national level. This is so much more productive and friendly. And whether I win or lose, I'd be proud to be served by a number of you. This is very encouraging. And I wish more state and national government was run on a similar fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Moving on to Peggy Velasco.
I believe the neighborhood councils are not a political organization. I believe it is a community advocacy, and its main mission is to build a community of relationships and to be the voice of our community, and meaning residents and businesses. I am not being supported or backed or affiliated or funded in any way by any political party. Not that I know of. I am just your next door neighbor who happens to teach for a living. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Moving on to Lily Barsha. Lily.
I believe everything is political. Everything is political. The council is a nonpartisan organization. I view it as where the council members are the bridge between the community and City Hall. You can't fight City Hall, but you can write to City Hall, you can communicate with City Hall. And one of the reasons I'm decided to run was based on COVID and seeing my elder neighbors completely disconnected from the world, basically. And I'm concerned about morphing from into a caste system where people who are not online are not even participating in anything. They can't even purchase. So I think we should definitely focus on, rather than getting grandpa online, making sure we can communicate with grandpa offline. And no, I'm not backed by any organization.
Thank you, Lily. Randall Freed.
Thanks, Michael. I am not backed by any political party. I think that the NC, from experience, a number of you have said it, it's political by nature. I had a political science professor who always said, listen, there's politics in everything, whether it's your marriage, with your relationship with your children, your whatever organization you're involved with, the workplace. So there are politics, but it should be nonpartisan. I must say, though, I'd be remiss if I didn't, that it's unfortunate that two members of a slate tonight, another one from a previous night, another one from the first night, are all disassociating themselves, which I understand, I guess, because three members of the slate are listed on the Democratic Socialists of America website. And I think it's great, by the way, however you're encouraged to get involved and run. It is a fact that they are listed on the DSA website, and it says that these members listed below have made a pledge to fight for our democratically decided socialist values. And that's wonderful, and that's great. And we should all work and fight for causes we believe. But I do believe that any slate you vote for has to be honest with the stakeholders. Our job is not to push our own ideological views. It's to listen to you, the stakeholders, and that's the message we carry forward to City Hall.
Thank you, Randall. And that ends that question. I'll pick the name out of a hat. We'll move on to the next question. Peggy Velasco, you'll be the first person to answer this next question. Peggy, it'll be you, and your question is, under topical, what are your thoughts on the mask mandate and wearing them in public and businesses? Did you wear a mask, as was asked of us all? And given the pandemic and its lockdown, obviously not everybody went out and could, did you do anything personally to help our community during this time?
I believe that wearing a mask can save lives and can decrease the spread of COVID or any other virus. I personally have been using a mask seven years before COVID. I would always wear a mask since 7 years ago when traveling and in the airplane, domestic and international. That's pretty much when I would always use my mask, and also a nebulizer. Because I knew that I could get sick. Of course, I had no knowledge of COVID at that time, seven years ago, but I just wanted to keep myself safe and continue having a healthy body. So I am a huge advocate for a mask. I'm glad that when COVID, we were exposed to COVID, that I already had a good mask. And I'm sorry, what was the other part of the question?
The rest was, did you, during this time, were you able to do anything for the community to help during the pandemic?
Yes, I have a few friends that were not able to go outside as much because they were at risk. So whenever I would go to the store, I would give them a call so I can actually run and pick up.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you. Appreciate you. All right, we are moving on to Lily Barsha. Lily.
Yes, absolutely. I wore a mask. I've been I live in a cooperative, and I actually was targeted and assaulted for having the gall to insist that masks be worn in our common area. During the pandemic, I delivered food and was on hand over the phone and for transportation for my elder neighbors who are not online, who were completely cut off from all communication, and felt threatened in the common area. I read and tutored students who were housebound, preschool and high school level. Parents are under an enormous amount of pressure. I was vaccinated, first dose. I still feel it for my community and my family. So yes.
Thank you, Lily. We'll move on to Randall Freed. Randall.
So yes, I believe in science. I wore a mask. My wife wears a mask. My son still wears a mask while he's in school currently, all day, every day. If a 4.5-year-old can do it, everyone else should be able to do it. Beyond that, yes, we did a lot. We, as I said in my opening remarks, a number of board members, a subset of existing board members, took the mayor's call to action. We organized Neighbors Helping Neighbors and had, it was amazing, 100+ neighbors literally going out shopping for those that were closed in. We also started we called it Feed Folks initiative, where we were connecting with local farmers just to the north of us, getting contactless, giving stakeholders a way to make a contactless purchase of farm fresh produce. So we were supporting farmers and we were supporting our local community. Some of those boxes were donated to first responders, whether it was the ER at St. Joseph's, whether it was the police department, whether it was the fire department, whether it was to an interfaith food pantry, and we helped our community. I myself also was giving in the beginning masks for my own supply to members of the LAPD. Thank you.
Thank you, Randall. Moving on to Chris Grattan. Chris.
Thanks, Mike. Yes, I wore a mask. I continue to wear a mask. My family wears a mask. As Randy said, my 4-year-old can wear it all day, and so can my 6-year-old. We can all do that. So absolutely, I believe in science, and I'm wearing a mask. Given the pandemic, what did I personally do? Look, I wasn't out on the streets like Randall, but I will tell you, my wife and I are lucky enough to be able to continue working from home. So we were able to continue to support ourselves, and we ordered takeout like crazy. So I guess that's supporting local businesses. We tipped like drunken sailors. So I guess that's helping the delivery guy and the people in the kitchen. Anybody that worked for us personally or professionally did not miss a single paycheck. They were guaranteed their hours, whether they were out sick or whether we didn't want them in our house or for whatever reason. So those little things add up, I suppose, if we all do them, those of us that are able. And yeah, that's the extent of my community help on that issue. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Moving on to Jeff Hartwick.
Yes, I believe in wearing a mask. The N95 is probably my preferred one. I also Purell my hands regularly, so I'm all into the protocol. And amazingly, I haven't been sick in a year usually I get sick with a common cold a couple times a year, and I, knock on wood, I haven't been afflicted as yet. So yes, I do believe in wearing masks until the authorities tell us that it's safe to mingle without them. In terms of what have I done during the pandemic, you try to help your neighbors. I have some immunocompromised neighbors who couldn't really go out and shop and things like that. So my wife and I would do some shopping, deliver groceries and things like that. My girls are really adept at mask making. So we've made literally hundreds of masks for first responders, for different hospitals and things. And we've also baked bags and bags and bags of chocolate chip cookies and whatnot, and delivered those to hospitals and also to our local fire station here in Whitsett. So we've done a little, not as much as some, but we've done our part, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Moving on to Walt Mashinsky. Walt.
Over the last 4 years, I've been doing a lot of production work in Southeast Asia. So I was actually producing in Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, and I was in Singapore when all of this hit. And one thing that was a common value throughout there is that if you were sick or you thought you might be in a position where you might give disease to someone else, you masked up. It was just common courtesy. And when I came back, it was easy enough to make that transition here. And I was happy to do what the current science said was the right thing to do. In terms of helping my community, I'll say this, I don't think I did enough. I did what everyone else did. I traded flour for lemons and took yeast to people who were sourdough challenged so that they could do things at home. But I wish I had done more. And I do think that one of the things that made me so interested in serving Studio City was seeing how effectively Studio City helped itself and helped each other. And it was constantly moving to me to see how this community responded to this crisis. And was one of the things that really increased my love for it and increased my devotion to it. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to do more.
Thank you, Walt. Moving on to Jeff Roy. Jeff.
Hi there. Yes, I did wear a mask and I continue to wear a mask because science. I'm also guided by the principles of think globally, act locally, and much of my attention was placed on helping my family, including my extended family, get through this together in one piece. And of course, a lot of my energy has been devoted to my students, and it continues to be devoted to my students to help them succeed in their studies. And I'm really excited about the potential of shifting my energy to my local community through the Neighborhood Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Andrew Silver.
Hi, yes. So my wife and I believe in science, and the mask mandate was appropriate. I believe it probably saved lives, and we adhered to all public health guidelines and protocols. I also worked with the organizations that I'm a part of to continue services to the most vulnerable in our community. So at No Home Alliance, we had indoor meals, and we had community groups. We had medical screenings. We provide a lot of our services indoors. Overnight, we had to transition all of that to being outdoors so that we could continue to keep healthy and keep the spread from happening to the most vulnerable community that could have impacted all of us. And so we were able to keep operating, and some other operations did close down for a period. So in addition, we're working with the county to get COVID vaccinations to the unhoused, and we've done that. We've gotten 2 doses to a first round, and we're working on getting up a second round for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Matt Thompson. Matt.
Yes, I undergraduate degree in biology and economics, so I definitely believe in science. I was actually admitted to medical school, but chose to pursue a business route. So believe in science. I think the mandate was appropriate. I think it helped lower the curve, which was key. But I think we also have to recognize that this is a perfect example. Unfortunately, this is a partisan issue, and we need to be open to other perspectives. I wear a mask, my kids wear a mask. I get nervous around people that don't wear masks, but sometimes there are people that have a different view, and we have to make sure we listen to that perspective and make sure they're not ostracized because they're coming to our community and they're spending their dollars. So we need to be mindful of that. And with that, we need to focus. The mask was one thing, but the mask was to get our society back open, so our economies open back up. It's tragic how there's boarded up restaurants and boarded up shops, and a lot of stores have closed on Ventura Boulevard. And we need to keep the masks as a policy so that we can keep lowering the curve until everyone can get vaccinated, so that we can bring back the economy and bring back the tax dollars.
Thank you, Matt. And that will be it. Next person, new question. We're going to start getting a little more specific now as well. And the first person, Jeff Hartwick, you will be first. Jeff, under crime and safety, I'm combining two of the questions. What are your feelings about the people's budget, and how do you feel LAPD has been doing?
The people's budget is rather utopian. They're calling for a total law enforcement budget of 1.64% of the total LA city budget. Right now, the proposed LAPD budget is about 54%. With fire, it's about 70%. So they really want to reduce the public safety component to what I believe is a very unrealistic level. And it would be detrimental to the safety of all the stakeholders and really all of LA. So I think it's a very nobly driven aspirational document, but in terms of the real world, it's impractical. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Let me start this timer. We are moving on to Walt.
I disagree with some of the specifics of the people's budget. I understand its objective. I understand that one of the things that we should be doing as a community is making sure that the right people go to address the right problems. And if you're having a speeding ticket, you probably don't need an armed officer approaching your automobile. If you're having a problem with a cat up a tree, you definitely don't need that happening. And so I do want to see the right people addressing the right issues, but I don't agree with all of the specifics of the people's budget. And I would generally say I'm in for increasing the amount of money we spend on public safety across the board and right sizing it in terms of different departments, particularly in outreach. As we know, the homeless component of what's happening in our city has a huge mental health issue. It's got a huge crime and safety issue. And all of those things have to be dealt with by the right people at the right time so that intervention works. And so in terms of how the police have done, I think this has been a challenging time for all of us. And as I said in my last answer, I don't feel like I've always done my best. I don't think they've always done their best, but I do think that they've tried to serve the community.
Thank you, Walt. Moving into Jeff Roy. Jeff.
So the Studio City Neighborhood Council is a nonpartisan body that's designed to listen to and amplify the voices of all stakeholders. And of course, what happens across LA and LA County certainly affects us. From what I've read, the people's budget was derived via a largely publicized survey open to all Los Angeles residents to provide input. And from what I understand, it came about because people wanted more of a say in how their local tax dollars are being spent. And I think we can all agree on that the LAPD can do better. And as a neighborhood council, I think we should focus on the LAPD's presence in Studio City and what their relationship is to our communities. And again, that means listening to everyone's voices. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Andrew Silver.
There we go. Hi. The people's budget is too extreme, and Jeff Hartwick gave the numbers on that, and I agree with that. There is a legitimate discussion that needs to be had about resources for homelessness, mental illness, and poverty. Walt, you touched on that. And these issues affect all of us. And so we should be discussing how these issues are affecting Studio City. In terms of LAPD and how they're doing, I'm going to focus on Studio City. We have a great senior lead officer, Sean Smith, in our community. He's responsive and cooperative, and there's the perennial issue of resources. I've heard Officer Smith say many times that there's only one car assigned to this area, and it's a large physical area. And honestly, I don't think that that's going to change quickly. So let's focus on how we can bring resources to specific target issues that LAPD is maybe not the best suited to be working on. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Moving to Matt Thompson. Matt? Matt, sorry, I muted you before, buddy.
My day job is allocating resources, and I think we need to take a look at the LAPD budget and look at how we allocate funds to solve these many problems. When I walk around Studio City, it's rare that I see a police car. It's very rare I see that. That's a huge problem. We need to do something to increase the volume of patrols. And we can't take away from the overall budget, but we need to figure out how to allocate things better. And we need to put things in the right way. I think we need to solve the right problems with the right resources. For example, homelessness is a very different problem than car theft, or a very different problem from arsons. So we need to be more precise in how we solve these problems. But my personal, as the pandemic issues calm down, we really need to look at how we can strengthen the safety of Studio City. We need to see how we can work maybe other budgets that relate, like things around trash. That's not a police issue, but that raises the cleanliness of the society and sort of improves those situations. So we need to figure out how to spend the money better. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Moving on to Peggy Velasco.
How do I feel what LAPD has been doing? I am only going to express my overall experiences with LAPD in Studio City. Not that I have a lot of experiences with LAPD, because I try to keep myself out of trouble, but we also have LAPD on site, on campus, when on campus at work. But focusing just on Studio City, I believe that we have a good relationship with the police department. Occasionally, we have had some community issues on our street where I live, or areas of work where they have been very responsive. So the experiences that I've had and I have witnessed, they have been very responsive. I understand that there are other tensions with the department, and this will move me on into the people's budget. So I believe that properly using the funds for training could be beneficial. However, since 2010, the LAPD has responded to 18 million calls. 92% are nonviolent and 8% are violent. So as a community, we should weigh in on how to respond to nonviolent issues budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. We are now moving on to Lily Barsha. Lily.
Well, I think when it comes, I'm one of those people who believes that as long as one person is unhoused, we're all homeless. I would rather live in a community that is compassionate. I think Studio City is a gateway to the Valley, and I'd rather put out a welcome mat than a wall. When it comes to the people's budget, I have to say I'm all for it. I think that, I don't know if this is the time to discuss the impact of, we have to be careful with acronyms like BLM. If it's the time to say, hey, Black Lives Matter, I would like to be on record as representative of Studio City to say, yeah, I do believe Black Lives Matter. Just want to be on record for that. Thanks.
Thank you, Lily. Randall Freed.
Hi, thanks, Michael. The People's Budget actually started back in 2015, where they were calling for the defunding of the LAPD, and as their website currently says, reimagining public safety. It got a lot of accolades, of course, and really picked up steam because, as was mentioned previously, there was a survey. The survey had about 24,000 respondents, 2,500 of which were not even in Los Angeles, but took the survey. And specifically from Council District 2, which is where we are, there were about 1,000 respondents, mostly pro People's Budget, but 1,000 people out of a group of 250,000, which is roughly the population of Council District 2. We do have to hold space for their argument. We do have to listen to them and ask why they feel the way they do. But 1,000 at the same time is a very small number compared to the other 249,000 that make up our council district. As for the LAPD, yes, they can improve just like we can all improve. But I think that we also have to educate ourselves. This is not the LAPD of Daryl Gates of 1992 of Rodney King. There was a consent decree in place for over a decade, and the LAPD represents racially pretty close at the makeup of LA, and they've come a long way. And I'm proud of what our LAPD
Thank you,
does.
Randy. Thank you very much, Randy. Chris Grattan. Chris.
Thanks, Mike. So the people's budget, as Randy said, is essentially come from the Defund the Police movement. Taking the budget from 54 to 1.6% of the total is kind of untenable. There are places that money can be saved and reallocated. I don't necessarily think the LAPD needs tanks or military grade equipment necessarily. So there's money spent on things that I really don't think is necessary. That's my take on it. As far as how do I feel the LAPD has been doing, I don't see them much, to be honest. You know, somebody mentioned, I think Matt, that there's one patrol car for Studio City. What I do hear a lot about is catalytic converters on my street being stolen. Lady across the street, an elderly lady, had a home invasion last year, I think it was. So I believe that laws need to be enforced, and there needs to be enough law enforcement to be able to enforce those laws. So I think they've been doing fine. I know Sean Smith is a very responsive guy, and I believe that they're doing the best that they can with the resources that they have. I just feel.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much, man. All right, that is the last one. Moving on to a new question. First person to answer the new question will be Randall Freed. Randall, your question is, do you feel the unhoused population has a responsibility to accept the help offered through social services, or do you feel they can stay on the streets if they so choose to?
Well, I'm glad you asked a very simple question to answer in 1 minute. Actually, I'm kidding. It's a very complex issue. And what's worse is it's a very polarizing issue, because we see it in the last year because of the pandemic. Many services completely stopped in the name of the pandemic, which I would say wasn't fair to the entire community, both housed and unhoused. In terms of services, yeah, I think, you know, as Judge Carter says, if we have if we have a place, shelter for them, because the philosophy that get someone with a roof over their head, then everything else becomes a bit easier. I do agree with that. I do not agree, though, however, that should someone choose to live on the streets and not accept help, that they have a right to remain there. Now, that's a very complex, that's a very tough subject to unravel, because there's a lot of layers to that. And I admit, I'm no expert. But I want our streets to feel safe for both those unhoused and housed. And the longer you're on the street, we know too many stories of people being victimized, both in a house and out of a house. Thank you.
Thank you, Randall. Chris Grattan.
Yeah, thanks. That is a very complex question, and as Randy said, very polarizing. I agree that given housing available or roofs over people's heads are available, that help should be offered, and help, those who want help, I believe, can get it, or they should be able to get it. So whether that's possible at this moment, I know there's tiny houses being built, and 100 tiny houses being built in North Hollywood, and there's other projects going on. But we've been waiting for this to happen for a very long time. I feel that if you refuse help, you should still be removed from the street. I'm sorry to say. I don't think that, I mentioned earlier with the police that there were laws that are not being enforced. There's tons of laws being broken. It's under a bridge. It's not safe to live under a bridge. It's not healthy to live there, whether you want to or not. I just feel like that something drastic should be done, because what we've been doing so far, unfortunately, has not been working.
Thank you, Chris. Moving on to Jeff Hartwick. Jeff.
Well, like Randy says, it's a very complex issue. I mean, I don't think most of the in-house want to be in their situation, but we should make social services available to them. We have Project Room Key. We have bridge housing, things of that nature, and social services should be provided to the population that wants it. I think the main problem is you have people with drug addictions and mental health issues who refuse to go avail themselves of these social services and cause problems for the rest of our community. Also, the laws regarding camping under underpasses and whatnot are not being enforced. And I saw a poor gentleman who was disabled in a motorized wheelchair. He couldn't get through the underpass there on Coldwater because the tents and furniture and all other items were obstructing the sidewalk. So he had to actually go into the street. So that's not safe. So I think the city needs to do a lot more. I think social services should be provided, but we also need to enforce our laws as part of our social contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Walt Mashinsky. Waltz.
I guess I don't agree with the assumption. When you ask a question like, should they be allowed to remain on the street? The assumption is that there are thousands and thousands of people in the city of LA who are voluntarily living the way that they're living. And I don't think that's what's happening. I think we're looking at a crisis that has a lot of different causations. I think for some people it's economic, for other people it's mental health, for other people it's addiction, for some people it's social. So let's deal with those underlying problems. Let's help the people who want mental health help to get it. Let's help the people who have addiction issues to get help with those addiction issues. Let's see what we can do about housing the unhoused who want to get off our streets. And then let's see what the problem is. And I don't think that we're going to see that there's just a vast group of people who want to live underneath bridges. I pass them as I walk around the city because that's the only kind of exercise I can get now that I can't go to the gym. And they don't seem like they're happy right now. They don't seem like they're experiencing life the way they want to. So let's see what we can do to try to address those underlying problems before we make any dramatic assumptions about them wanting to be there.
Thank you, Walt. Jeff Roy. Jeff.
So from what I understand, as soon as doors open to different housing options and as soon as services are available, those services are being met and beds are being filled. The unhoused population is scared, and we must offer a helping hand to anyone who wants a bed and receive help. And actually, to build on what Walt was saying, we collectively have a responsibility to offer these services and support initiatives that address the economic, social, and health-based circumstances that lead to and continue to facilitate homelessness. The unhoused population is already here, and instead of neglecting our unhoused neighbors, stakeholders, we can connect them with services. Our slate is currently supporting plans to offer on-site services. Many of these are interim solutions, and we believe that our unhoused stakeholders also need access to more long-term solutions. Andrew Silver has done and is currently doing incredible work, and I will let him speak next.
All right, Jeff, thank you. And with that, Andrew Silver's next.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Walt. We're very much aligned. I get it. Many people hear that the unhoused refuse services. I do outreach. I've heard that. I've heard the unhoused say that no, they don't want to accept services. Part of that's based on the trauma that they experience. The process of becoming unhoused and being unhoused is unimaginably brutal. And it changes how you react and and your trust levels with other people, even offering help. So the issue is not that people want to live on the street. The real issue is that there's nowhere for service providers to put them. I meet with the service leaders in the Valley on a regular basis, and we talk about the funding sources and the beds that are available at any given day. I know the numbers, and there just isn't enough places to offer them. And I've had people, what you don't hear is I've had people beg me to get housing, and it's really heartbreaking. I've recently interviewed 2 CEOs of service providers that bring the most difficult
Thank you,
people
Andrew.
off the street.
Andrew, thank you very much. Moving on to Matt Thompson. Matt.
Yes, this is obviously a huge problem. I said this is a very important issue to me. It's, you get scared walking around Studio City. You walk on Ventura, and there's people that obviously need help in their exact same spot for 3 weeks straight. There's garbage in the same place, and I think there's some rules that if there's things that are thought to be homeless people's stuff, they won't remove it, and it's there for months. I think you'd be using technology, identify those items. If it's not moved in 3 days, it wasn't theirs, they don't want it, it should be thrown away. We need cleanup crews to go in and clean this stuff up. It's unsafe. There's been fires, there's been disease, there's more rats, and we need to focus on this, or we're gonna be like downtown Los Angeles, which is a complete mess. We're lucky that the problem is relatively mild and limited to the underpasses, but we need to focus on this, or it's gonna be like downtown Flower Street, which is absolute chaos. And we need the police to be enforced to make these changes. You can't block the overpasses, people can't walk, and you can't just completely ignore laws.
Matt, thank you. Moving to Peggy Velasco. Peggy.
There are various reasons for homelessness. I strongly believe in helping those in need to provide them housing assistance and prevention services. Citizens who become homeless or unhoused for unforeseen circumstances, they will be responsible to accept our community help. However, I am concerned about for those who are experiencing a mental health disorder. When a person is not held in a healthy state of mind, a person is not making a wise decision, and they put themselves at risk, and also they put others at risk. And this is when they need others to help them make a decision to move them to a better place, to make it safe for themselves and for the community as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Lily Barsha. Lily.
Well, it's an issue that affects us all. I view the unhoused as an illustration of a global economic war. These are refugees of an economic war. And much like the children at the border are refugees of civil wars. And we have to realize that the war, the bigger picture, this is happening everywhere. Just as a 2-year-old is not a migrant, they can't even walk, but they're refugees. And it makes a very good case for universal health care, makes a very good case for basic universal income.
Thank you, Lily. And that does it for that question. Moving on to the next question. First person to answer the next question. Let's see. Walt Mashinsky. Walt, you will be up first. Walt, and as homeowners, to all you candidates here, where do you stand on the proposed Southeast Valley Community Plan update regarding housing density and upzoning? Single-family R1 zones to multifamily R3 zones in our neighborhoods. I can ask it again if you'd like.
Zoning is how we as a community protect the quality of life in our neighborhoods. And obviously a decision to increase density is one that we shouldn't be making without adequately making sure that we have the right infrastructure underlying it, and making sure that it doesn't have adverse effects on the community around it. I think what we want to do and what we want to make sure we don't do is manage this, what we should do rather, is manage this in such a way that we don't make a solution that increases problems for the people around it. What I think we need to do is, as I've looked at those plans briefly, and I have to admit they're a little bit bewildering to me. It's a little bit beyond my remit. It's a little bit beyond my experience. They seem to not be as thoroughly planned as I would like them to be. So while I agree with the idea that increased urban density makes for a higher quality of life in the long run, it can't be done at the expense of people living in those neighborhoods right now.
Thank you, Walt. Moving on to Jeff Roy. Jeff.
So a lot of cities are reflecting on the historic origins and contemporary consequences of their zoning codes right now. And the challenges that we face are to realize more equitable zoning codes while maintaining shared social goods like parks, trees, public health, safety. And our slate does support the Southeast Valley Community Plan Update, which is still under review, because we need plans that orient LA towards the future. And the city is facing multiple overlapping, interlocking challenges, and we need to find ways of addressing those needs. And that means looking to the future, not behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Next up, Andrew Silver. Andrew.
Hi, thank you, Michael. This issue goes to the root causes of homelessness in Los Angeles. The city of LA has not produced enough housing for the people that live here for decades now. And I can get into terms like RH RENA and all kinds of complicated things like that. I've sat in on a lot of meetings with regarding the Southeast Community Plan. There's also the city planning housing element and the Ventura corridor. And the links to these are
Andrew, you're freezing up.
StudioCityForAll.com. Oh, sorry.
You were on the websites. You were on the websites. You were about to mention the websites.
Yeah, okay. So the plans are on our website. The state is introducing a series of housing reform bills the past 3 years. If we don't modernize our approach to housing, the state will do it for us. We should be part of the process and working with city planning to develop plans that will fit the community and meet our current and future needs.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Moving on to Matt Thompson. Matt?
Yes, I agree. Housing is a major problem for Los Angeles. There's just not enough of it. And I think some of these zoning rules should change. I think the challenge is everyone wants more housing, but they may not want it in their neighborhood, because a lot of this drives property values. We're the homeowners committee, right? So we want the economy to thrive and we want less homelessness. But if you're going to flood the market with more supply of multifamily, it may lower the price of the houses in the community. So we need to have that balance. But we also have to address these other issues. The other thing hurting our housing prices are these planes flying over our heads because they move the flight path. It's terrible. We need to come together as a council and target the FAA, target Burbank Airport, and move the line back to Valley Village. It needs to go back to where it was before. It shouldn't go right over Carpenter, Milliken, and Dixie Canyon schools. It's unfair. We need to move the flight path back.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Moving to Peggy Velasco. Peggy?
There are families who would like to build an additional units in their backyard and to have a separate guest house for a guest. But the issue here that some of the residents have, it's not so much a small little place in their backyards or on top of their garage. The issue that residents see is when wanting to build a building in a residential area in which is going to increment traffic in our streets. So they feel like it's going to disseminate this area and it's going to bring in more traffic. So there's got to be a middle ground when it comes into a solution to benefit both perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Moving to Lily Barsha. Lily.
Well, I've been here for over 40 years, and I've watched the real estate advertising over the years, and it's always invariably they always cite close to shopping. And I'm a homeowner, and garden-like settings. So our proximity to shopping, our city vibe, as well as our green space and our garden-like setting is what draws. And so if we could incorporate that in the building plans, like I think business owners and homeowners and all stakeholders want the same things. You could incorporate green space in your business plan, for example, like oases on the boulevard or, but you know, if I had my way, right, I would say no growth at all. Let's go back to the way it was in 1911, sure, but you know, that's not gonna happen. So going forward, I would just hope that we could advocate for our green space, the things that the trees can't speak. We have to speak for them and keep our greenery.
Thank you, Lily. Moving on to Randall Freed. Randall.
Thanks for the question. Lily actually brings up an interesting point, you know, and maybe I'm the only one that'll say this. I was just having this conversation actually with my uncle who was visiting from Washington State, used to be a farmer, so went from LA to the middle of nowhere. And he said, why is the notion that a city always has to keep growing, 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 more people, more people, more people? Population in 1980 was just under 3 million in the city. Now we're, I believe, over 4 million. But our infrastructure hasn't really changed. Changing single family housing suddenly, like in my neighborhood along Moore Park, they want to make homes where many residents have lived for years, and in many cases their homes are their retirement actually, to suddenly tear it down, put a sixplex up. But what about the width of the streets? What about parking? This creates a lot of other infrastructure issues in making a dense community. Perhaps we have to build a little bit more smartly and recognize that maybe we have to go further out, and maybe we just can't be a city that continues to grow and grow and grow, because we are destroying our canopy of trees, which is not something I support. And we have to think smartly, which we're building, you know, above train stations in areas that are already dense. Thank you.
Thank you, Randall. Chris Grattan. Chris.
Yes, sir. So we need to preserve the character of our neighborhoods. I think that's very important. That said, Los Angeles and other major cities have a really a difficult problem with housing. And I would say the lack of housing in a place like Studio City actually makes traffic worse, because people have to drive on the freeways to get here, and people have to drive on the freeways to get out of here to wherever they're going. So I believe that something needs to be done. There needs to be some development, and some of these, and look, I'm not an expert in land use, and I don't know every single specific one of these properties that they're talking about tearing down and rebuilding. So, you know, it has to be thoughtful. It has to be considerate of the neighborhood, and it has to be, you have to preserve the character of the neighborhood. So I do believe that it needs to happen, but it needs to be on a case-by-case basis, and it needs to make sense. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Moving to Jeff Hartwick. Jeff.
Yes, I understand the Southeast Valley Community Plan is currently being updated, so I don't believe it's in its final form yet. So I'd be interested in reviewing that. But going from R1, which is single family residences, to R3, that means you're going to build apartment complexes. So my concern would be that they would destroy very charming homes and really affect the character of the neighborhood, not to mention the density and traffic congestion increases. So I think we need to be very careful about expanding the zone from R1 to R3. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And that is it for that question. I picked the first person for the next question. Just so you know, we will be going till 9 o'clock. So we're kind of there. Matt Thompson, you will be the first person to answer this. Matt, are you still there? I see your videos off. Yeah. Okay, just, all right. The question will be, and for all you candidates, this will be the very last question on the outreach. So let me throw a little bit of context in here as well, because the pandemic has taken some businesses from Studio City. And while it's not the SCNC's job to do this, it is other entities. You will be asked about this. So, how do you plan on working with the BID, which is the Business Improvement District, the Chamber of Commerce, the SC Residents Association, and City Council members' office to encourage commercial growth in our area?
So I think this is an area that the Studio City Neighborhood Council can do a lot. I think we should do more things. Like there's a budget. We should use some of that budget to promote activities. For example, maybe close off a street and have a sort of a day for the shops to have a walking promenade. Things to promote our businesses. Use the signage that we can have to promote having people shop locally. So there's a lot of things we can do if we raise our profile. Honestly, very few people know that this organization exists. If there's 200,000 people live here, I'd say only like 5,000 people know we exist. So we need to get the word out, what we're doing and how we're helping both business and the community. So I think a lot of this is getting the word out, maybe through the schools, through different organizations, because if people don't know we exist, we really lose a lot of our power. And I think we need to use that power to then promote the remaining businesses and drive more traffic to them and to improve the economy of Studio City. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Peggy Velasco. Peggy.
I would love to be in contact with the Chamber of Commerce and Studio City Residents Association to discuss on how we are going or what can we do to keep businesses and also tourism in Studio City. Many of, or not many, but yeah, some of the businesses are actually thinking about, for those that are leasing offices or spaces, they are thinking about canceling or not renewing their lease and moving to other areas of nearby cities because of the whole situation that we have with the unhoused citizens. So I think it would be a good thing to work on that and also promote businesses, promote being safe. Many people are still scared of going out because of the virus, but being safe, wearing a mask, and there are many businesses that are willing to also promote safetiness. I'm also concerned about tourism and that when they come over and they spend thousands of dollars to come here, that we don't give them a good impression. So I would really like to.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you very much. All right, moving to Lily Barsha. Lily.
Well, for outreach, I think I was thinking in terms of all different, actually 4 directions. Thinking that perhaps the newsletter, if the newsletter had a youth corner, an elder corner, a wildlife corner, and a commercial corner that could highlight, for example, student work, artwork in the youth corner, elder voices in the elder corner, wildlife. There are ways for speaking for wildlife through photos or through pictures, or we have tree people there. And then the commercial corner to highlight the stories behind the businesses. That is, I've found an effective way to reach everybody. Again, within mind that you want to include everybody, including those who are offline. Their opinion of, I don't want anything to do with the internet and I don't want a smartphone. It's a valid opinion and they should be part of the conversation.
Thank you, Lily. Moving on to Randall Freed. Randall.
Thanks for the question, Michael. So the SCNC does have a relationship with other entities in Studio City. Since I've been president, I've tried to go to great lengths to make sure we have regular contact with the SCRA, which is the Residents Association, the Beautification Association, the Farmers Market, the Business Improvement District, and the Chamber of Commerce. And in fact, we all worked together very most recently in calling out Sheila Kuehl's office regarding the county's neglect, I would argue, of the park and ride lot on the east end of Ventura. Sheila Kuehl's office gave very little response to our initial letter that we sent, and was signed by all of us. We sent a follow-up letter. We also promoted this to the media to try to get some media attention. NBC just did an interview about it. And wouldn't you know, suddenly Sheila Kuehl's office has become a touch more responsive. And because we wanted the people there to be helped. We didn't want to see the people in the lot being victimized of the known criminal element that existed there. And we wanted to improve the community, surrounding community. So we do work together. And CD2 is about 250,000. Studio City itself is about 36,000. And we can do more on outreach. And
Thank you, Randall. Thank you. Moving on to Chris Grattan. Chris.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I think that in working with these organizations, we need to ask what they want, what do they need, what do they feel is going to help the businesses in our community. There are things I believe that we can help with, like supporting the easing of the permit process in many cases for places like restaurants. The permit process was sped up a bit for outdoor dining during the pandemic. I have a feeling after a while, they're going to perhaps start walking that back. I think we can support those additional tables that those restaurants have. But I think the biggest thing is just getting an understanding from all of those organizations of, what are the touch points? What are they trying to solve? We all might be trying to solve the same things and coming at them from different angles. But I've learned over the years that bundling a problem among various stakeholders and seeing it as one large problem is much more effective than a bunch of little, birds pecking at the government. So that's my position. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Moving on to Jeff Hartwick. Jeff.
Yes, I think to echo Randall and Chris, we need to listen to the business community. They have a lot of needs right now. They've been hurting. There are a lot of shuttered businesses on Ventura Boulevard. We need to do our best to help open up those businesses. I like ideas like on Magnolia and NoHo, where they actually took like the bike lane and parking lane and turned it into restaurant seating to help the restaurants survive during the pandemic. We need to encourage things like that. But I think public safety is a big issue for the business community and also for our own community. If people are shoplifting at the local stores because they know they can get away with $950 worth of goods and it's not going to be considered a felony, that's going to hurt businesses' bottom line. So people aren't going to feel safe shopping at those places. Or if there's crime on our streets and on Ventura Boulevard. So we need to focus on public safety, the issue with the unhoused, and also safety for pedestrians. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Walt Mashinsky. Walt.
I want to agree with a lot of what the other candidates have said. I think Studio City is a gem of a place to be. It's the best sushi you can get without a plane ticket. I think it has a river going through it that's eventually going to be a show place. And it's in that sweet spot where it's in the middle of everything, but it's still peaceful enough that I can hear my local coyotes starting their workday every night right after the sun goes down. And the fact that more of LA doesn't know about that speaks to a communication problem. I will say that I think the current council has done admirable work in taking the first steps, because I found out about this, the council through their publicity efforts. I found out what we were doing in outreach, and I want to see us continue to build on that work. So I guess the first thing I would say I would be doing is listening and building on the foundation that we've already gotten, so that we have an opportunity to communicate to other stakeholders and other community organizations what a great place Studio City already is, and finding out how we can get better levels of communication with them to improve it further.
Thank you, Walt. Moving on to Jeff Roy. Jeff.
So great solutions come when everybody can have a seat at the table and when collaboration is facilitated between different entities and organizations when appropriate. And the Studio City Neighborhood Council will be strongest if it can be accessible, transparent, inclusive, and representative of all of its stakeholders, including businesses. So while neither I nor my slate have direct relationships with the organizations you mentioned, we look forward to meeting with them, understand their objectives, and work towards establishing common ground towards restoring vitality to local businesses in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Andrew Silver. Andrew.
Hi, yes. So, our local business community has been hammered by the pandemic. And so we need to be working with our business improvement district, the Chamber of Commerce, and we should be reaching out to the individual property owners that are sitting with empty properties now, because there's a lot of them on Ventura Boulevard, to get their feedback on what we can do to help out. A lot of regulations were eased during the pandemic, and I think we should try to keep some of those restrictions off. And I think that has the ability to make this a more fun, open, engaging community. And I think our slate is a great group of people to reach out to the younger community and bring those people in with increased social media presence. And I know that pedestrian safety has been discussed, and that's the neighborhood council has a transportation committee that can be brought into this. So there's a lot that we can do. There's some of our thoughts are on our website at studiocityforall.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And that is the last person to answer that question. There's one person left in here. I couldn't guess who it is. So, Lily Barsha. Lily, you'll be the first person to answer this next question. This will be our last question before moving into closing statements. But the question to you, Lily, is, if elected, which committees would you like to be involved in? Whether elected or not, would you still volunteer to be a member of a committee, attend meetings, or volunteer at events? Lily.
Yes, I am willing to participate in committees and events. The committees that interest me are the beautification, outreach, land use, all of them really. I think what I bring to the table, I studied, I'm a French major, but I studied horticulture in the Yale School of Forestry to complete my Group 4 requirements. And I have a Master Gardener certificate from UCLA. I'm an actor, writer, director, producer, photographer, come from a family of editors. So we have a tendency to look for what has been cut or what's missing, what's taken away. And education, if there's some, as a former teacher, if there's some committee bringing in our youth, education. I don't think it's been established yet.
Thank you, Lily.
Welcome.
Randall Free, you're up next.
Thanks, Michael. In my first year on the board member, I was vice president. And so I had the opportunity to be involved with government affairs, public safety, and transportation. As president in this past year, I have the privilege of being a part of every committee. All I had to do is just show up. And I'm proud to say that I've been involved with a number of committees. And thanks to our current vice president, we actually have a at-youth stakeholder, and he has his own committee of high school students. And they're working on a beautification project of planting a median here in Studio City. And so my hope is that obviously is that I'll be reelected, and whether I am reelected or not, did I freeze? Oh, okay, good. So
you quickly did.
Oh, everyone else said no, Michael, but just in case, if I'm reelected, my hope is that, or even if I'm not, that I'll be involved, and I will happily volunteer for any committee to share what my experience has been in the last 2 years and who I've talked to and who I've connected, and help to make the new board, if it's not me and others, more successful for the community.
Thank you. My apologies, Randy. And again, back to when Andrew froze up, hopefully it wasn't just on my end. I apologize because you guys both froze on my end.
No problem.
I got to upgrade. We need to get something better in here. Chris,
Yeah.
you next.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'll start with the second question first. I will happily serve if not elected, and be happy to participate. I've really enjoyed even just this short little portion of my participation. I think that for my skills, I would be best suited. You know, look, the homelessness committee is the hot button topic. I'd love to be involved in the solutions that we work up on that committee, and hopefully be a small part of the solution to that problem. On a more boring note, the budget committee is interesting to me because I'm kind of like a numbers guy. I currently serve as on the board of directors for a nonprofit animal sanctuary in Washington. I'm the vice president and secretary, but I'm also on the finance committee. So I find that kind of work really interesting in digging through budgets and finding opportunities on where we can better spend our money. So those would really be the two that sound most interesting, but you know, I haven't really learned a lot about all the rest of them. So would look forward to finding out. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Chris. You didn't freeze, Chris. That's good. Jeff Hartwick. Jeff, you're up.
Well, I'd be happy to serve on any committee. I'm not sure how committee members are chosen, but I would gladly belong to any committee that was given to me. I think I would be most interested in public safety because I am concerned about rising crime in our area. The homelessness committee is also of interest due to the rising number of unhoused population in our area. Transportation is also interesting. I'm concerned about pedestrian safety. You know, you got these cars speeding all over the place, and even down my street, sometimes I think maybe there should be a speed bump there to stop that sort of activity. Potholes are a concern. I had a pothole. It took them about a year to fix, for the city to fix, and it was getting worse and worse and worse. So I think the city needs to be more proactive in that regard. So maybe I could affect some change in getting to the city and 311 to be more responsive to the needs of our community. And then finally, maybe a budget committee, because I like to know where the money is spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Walt, you're up.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting is that I'm a judge and a teacher and a board member in the marching band, winter guard, and indoor drumline activity. And one of the things that I always notice is the first day of auditions, we say to 150 drummers, who here wants to be a snare drummer? And every hand goes up. Or if you talk to the marching band, you're like, how many of you guys want to play first part trumpet? And everybody's hand goes up, which is a long way around to say, I'm willing to do and serve wherever it is that I'm needed. And I looked through the list of committees. Public safety seems to be one that I think fits closely to my skill set. However, I'm really open to, and I think Lily's influenced me because I'm really open to blooming wherever I'm planted. So wherever it is that I'm most needed, that's where I want to most be. And I would absolutely still be involved in the community structure, even if I were not elected.
Thank you, Walt. Moving on to Jeff Roy. Jeff.
Hey there. So yeah, if elected, I'd love to work with the outreach committee because I believe promoting young, diverse leaders to educate themselves about how they can get involved in issues that affect them, their families and communities is key to the work that we're trying to do. We need to put the future of our communities, on our front burner here, and that means empowering young folks and those who conventionally don't or can't get involved to act locally. As an arts educator, I'd also like to work to provide visibility for the arts in Studio City, preserving and promoting the neighborhood's cultural and historical heritage. And I guess that would mean serving on the Cultural Affairs Committee as well. If not elected, of course, I would certainly volunteer. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Moving on to Andrew Silver. Andrew. You're on mute, buddy.
Got it. All right. Guess what? I would like to work with the Homelessness Committee. I was the former chair of the Homelessness Committee, and I'm proud of the work that we did. We issued community impact statements that spoke for the entire community on key issues in front of the City Council. I'm very proud of a motion that our committee researched and wrote that brings specific services to the most difficult people on our streets. That is now in front of, it became an actual City Council motion with funding. It passed the Homelessness Committee at the City Council. It would be voted on. That motion will bring specific resources to Studio City with money attached to help with the most difficult homeless situation in our community. Land use is an important committee. I've been meeting with City Planning Department for a long time about the neighborhood, the Southeast Valley Community Plan. I'd like to continue that work. So there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm happy to step in and help out. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Matt Thompson. Matt.
I really believe in win-win-win. Like, how can we use these committees together and have the most impact? All of them have very important goals, but how do we work together and have the most impact? So, for example, beautification. I'm really a big believer in that. I've run some self-directed cleanup efforts around the footbridge, but I think we should like have a whole Studio City-wide cleanup day or cleanup days where we clean up all the trash, clean up all those areas. And then that ties into outreach. That gets more people knowing about what we're doing. And then that ties into safety, and it ties into community. And then you could have a tie into the business community. So if you do all these things together, you get the most impact. So not only do more people know that we exist, now that we can clean up the trash, that makes things safer, that helps with the safety, it helps with the cleanliness. So thinking very strategically, you can position events that have the maximum impact. So we can clean up trash while making things safer, while building community, while having more people directed to restaurants. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Peggy Velasco. Peggy.
If elected, there are 3 committees that I'd like to be involved. The first one is transportation, the Transportation Committee. I am currently very involved in my blog with issues around LADOT. Also, I would love to be part of the outreach community because as a professor, I would really like to add or contribute to a diverse representation to enrich the Studio City Neighborhood Council. I would really like to be part of creating multicultural events, multicultural webinars to educate ourselves as a community and to learn from one another culturally. Also, the homeless committee to help our unhoused citizens transition to a safe environment, or safe place. And if not elected, I would still like to be invited to join as a volunteer in any of these committees, which I highly actually prefer the Transportation Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. All right, she finishes off that question. So we are going to move into closing statements, everyone. So thank you all for lasting this long. Thank you all for being timely with your answers. Thank you all for the attendees for continuing on with us. We will start with closing statements. Pick the name, and just so you know, at some point, we only have 2 hours for this timer. Somebody it's going to drop out on, and I apologize. I'm going to keep time. We're going to have to re-invite the timer back into this Zoom. It's the only one available for Zoom. I apologize. Jeff Roy, you will be the first person with your closing statements. So with that, Jeff, take it away.
So I want to thank the organizers of this town hall. I'm very grateful to be part of this event, and I want to thank my fellow panelists for sharing their valuable experiences and perspectives with the public. The COVID epidemic has impacted all of us in very different ways, and it has exacerbated already existing issues and systemic inequities in our society and local communities, making them more visible and frankly unavoidable. I hope my slate and I can count on your vote so we can work to increase engagement in and around those issues that are so important to all stakeholders in Studio City. Spirited civil discussions, really great and important, and action is what's really necessary. And that's what I hope to facilitate with the guiding principles of empathy, equity, and civic responsibility. Again, to find out more about how we can achieve our shared goals, please visit studiocityforall.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Andrew Silver. Andrew, you're on mute. And
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Lisa Sarkin, for all your work in organizing this election. I'm happy to be part of the Studio City for All slate. We're a group of younger people that want to be involved in our community and make it better for everybody. It's unfortunate that Randy brought in national style politics to attack some of these people. It's a shame. But I want to assure everybody that we're just focused on the best interests of everybody. We all have the same concerns, and we want to make Studio City a better place for everybody. I think we bring unique skills and experiences to the work that Studio City needs to do to move through the pandemic and grow and be a more vibrant community. And I look forward to being part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Just going to remind all candidates as well, just in case, if there's any way for stakeholders to continue to reach out to you, whether it's through an email you feel safe with, whether it's through social media or anything, I'd encourage you to mention it now or anything like that. So Jeff, if, Andrew, if either one of you would like to, we'll obviously give you a couple seconds to mention that. Let's do it at the end of it though. So Matt Thompson, Matt, you will be next.
Yes, thank you. Matt Thompson, very excited to potentially serve on this council. I think I can bring a very fresh perspective, a nonpartisan perspective, very pragmatic perspective, and very encouraged by the other members on this call, on this other candidates. I think I'm encouraged that they can do some great things to help our community. So if I don't win the votes, I think I'll still be trusting that they're going to be doing a good job. But I think I can add a lot at a very different perspective, at an Asian American perspective, at a very analytical and business perspective to help homeowners. And I really think this idea of win-win-win, how can we bring the different committees together to have the most impact and to make us the most relevant? Because like I said, I've lived in this community for 13 years. I didn't know any of this stuff was happening until I got the flyer about this election. So that's a real shame that this organization has a budget, yet very involved citizens don't know that it exists. So unless we're top of mind, we're irrelevant. So I want to make us relevant again and make Studio City great again. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Peggy Velasco.
Thank you, Studio City Neighborhood Council, for hosting this forum. In the 7 years that I've lived in Studio City, this town, my neighbors, and the community have created many wonderful memories for me and for my family. I decided to run as a candidate because I want to contribute to my neighborhood. I am full of energy and I want to collaborate with our local government and community programs to help fill up the gap to make a difference in the quality of our lives of our community. I ask for your vote to make a difference in our community. Thank you for your time, for joining us, and you can follow me on Twitter, Peggy Velasco. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Moving on to Lily Barsha.
Hi, my name is Lily Barsha, and all I can do is say vote for Lily of the Valley. I guess I could, I'd like to blame the Academy. I use Studio City not as an enclave or a bubble, but part of the vital fabric of our city of Los Angeles. My father went to North Hollywood High School. My mother went to John Marshall High School. My grandmother and grandfather went to LA High. My roots in the city run deep and wide. And if you're going for inclusivity, I'm the only candidate, I think, representing the global majority. So I hope you vote for me. And if you don't, I'll still be here, my dears.
Thank you, Lily.
You're welcome.
Randall Freed.
Hi, thanks, Michael. First, thank you, Michael, for moderating. Thank you, Lisa Sarkin, and the rest of the ad hoc election committee for all of your hard work and really putting out the word about the neighborhood council and about our election. Proof in the pudding, all of you here and over 40 plus candidates getting certified and hopefully all working hard to get out the vote. I'm proud to announce that I'm a part of a slate of candidates that is a mix. We have Ira Gold at large, Richard Niederberg for service organization, Adam Summer is a residential renter, Lisa Karajian is a business representative, Scott Mandel, as well as a business representative, and myself. Our philosophy is simple. We think that a diverse slate of candidates has the right mix of incumbents with a proven track record of hard work and fairness, plus the added benefit of new people that are eager and excited to get involved and are smart individuals. Unlike the other slate, you can go to the DSA website. We have not taken a pledge. We are not in line with any ideology. What we have in common is the ability to do hard work, address each issue individually, listen to others, and we'll do our best to improve Studio City. You can reach me, Randall Fareed at Gmail, Facebook. I'm already on Nextdoor asking for opinions. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Chris Stratton, Chris.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks for the rest of the board for hosting us tonight. Listen, it's important to understand what these board positions do and what they do not do. These seats don't make laws or policy. They don't arbitrate disputes, and they don't vote for or against new laws. They're unpaid volunteers who advocate for their communities on important issues. In other words, your neighborhood council members is your voice in local government. So it's important to remember this when casting your vote. Vote for somebody who understands what this position is designed to do. Vote for someone that you think can listen and effectively communicate your values to City Hall. Vote for the person you think will be the most effective liaison between you personally and the mayor and city council. Now, I've got a few seconds left here, though. I don't know what happened to the timer. So I'm going to throw some technology at you.
22, Chris, you've got 22 seconds.
Okay. This looks backwards on my screen, but email me if you have questions, if you want to chat. Don't act like you're not impressed. Vote for Chris. I even made a Gmail account for this at gmail.com. So send me an email. Happy to chat, answer your questions, or more importantly, just listen. Thanks again, and you all have a great night and good luck out there.
Thank you, Chris. Sorry, the timer went out on you. Again, it's only 2 hours. It's the only one that Zoom offers. So I will be going off of this now for the remaining folks. And the remaining folks are, Jeff, you are next.
Well, thank you, Michael. You've done yeoman's work these past 3 nights. You've been a great moderator. Thanks also to Lisa Sarkin for organizing the whole deal here. It's been great sharing with you some of my views on the current issues affecting our community. Hopefully you know a little bit more about me. And I promise to listen to you about anything going on with our community. Studio City is a great place to live. I love it here, and I want to make it better. There's more we can do, especially with the crime situation, homelessness, transportation, trees along the riverfront, et cetera, et cetera. So lots of things that need our valued input. If you want to reach out to me, you can hit me up at Jeff Hartwick NC, as in November Charlie, at yahoo.com. Thank you all. Thank you to my fellow panelists. It's been great to chat with you. Maybe one day we can all be together in an actual room. That would be great. And I respectfully request your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. It was right on time, too, without even seeing it. Walt, last but not least, Walt.
It's not the first time I've been told that. First of all, I'm proud to be an adopted Californian and a resident of Studio City. And the last year has really reinforced to me how important community in general, and this community in particular, is. I'd like to bring my work experience to making it an even better one. I think of myself as a consensus builder and a thoughtful leader when that's necessary, and a diligent follower when that's the right course of action. Should I get to serve, I'll learn when I need to lead when I can. And I'm proud to say, I'm not a member of any of these slates, so I can follow the best ideas no matter where they come from. And I'm looking forward to working with both groups. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me at waltomashinsky@gmail.com.
And that's it. Thank you very much, Walt. And thank you to all of the candidates for making time, for answering the emails and answering the questions put forward by the community. Once again, to all the attendees, anyone watching live, anyone watching on YouTube, 2 seconds, Lisa. I want to drive everyone to this election website, please. There are more candidates, again, who did not join us for whatever reason, but also you will be able to register to vote there as well. This is vote by mail. You have a May 4th date to sign up. You have ballots postmarked by May 11th or drop off on the sidewalk in the big election box right by the Studio City Library. With that, thank you for Mark Fisher as well. I see him over there. Lisa is the ad hoc committee chair. And what do you got, Lisa?
Matt, we can't read what you've written on that piece of paper. So you might want to change that. And did everybody get to say their email addresses or their social media? Who came first before you had spoken about that?
Everybody's good with social media?
Everybody did it? Okay.
Right,
Oh,
right.
Matt, I can't read that, what you
I
had.
just want to mention, it's Twitter at Melish1, MELISH1.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so all of this is going to be online. All three of the forums will be on YouTube and I think just YouTube. But it's so it's Studio City Neighborhood Council's YouTube address.
It'll also be on Facebook. Sorry to
Okay,
interrupt.
it'll be on
We're
Facebook,
streaming
too.
live on Facebook, and then it'll be stored there as well on the SCNC page.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating.
Thank you, everyone. Best of luck to you. Reach out to the stakeholders because there's still a lot of time. Continue the conversation. We wish you all the best. Thank you, everyone.